Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Elliott from Dirk.com, and in today's video, which is sponsored by the kind folks at Squarespace, we're going to take a look at a time-lapse creation of the letter Z post from my recent 36 Days of Type project. It's mostly centered around architectural sketching in Blender, and then I also went to town on the environment using a cool new add-on that I found, but stay tuned and let's get started. Before we go any further, I wanted to tell you quickly about the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website building tool that can take you from simply dreaming about having a great website to actually having a great website. Every time I do one of these sponsorships, I continue to be amazed by the new templates they're adding and just how gorgeous they are with zero effort on my end. All I need to do is drag and drop my images into the site and we're off to the races. If you don't have a website, then I've said it before, but I'll say it again, you need one. Squarespace is the perfect tool to make it happen. Besides great templates, Squarespace makes setting up other modules like contact forms, appointment booking, and even online shops super easy. Get started today with 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code DIRK. Okay, so jumping right into the time lapse here. Obviously not starting with a fresh Blender scene, but this is actually a scene left over from my X post. So there was a couple colored lights in there, but for the Z, I already had a little bit of a concept. Wanted to go for something architectural. So I had the idea of doing these two kind of shipping container style pods of like a little house or something, making the top and bottom of the Z, and then having a staircase be the kind of create that crossbar in the Z, which this is 36 days of type. So at the end of the day, I needed this to somehow, somewhere represent a Z, but got to thinking a little bit more about the architecture here about, okay, maybe the staircase needs a little bit of a landing. So really just roughing out some shapes here, thinking a little bit about the structure, using a skin modifier on just some vertices to create those posts in the back. And so that I could see the stairs, went ahead and added a little bit of a solidify modifier to them. Here I'm blocking out some windows with the glass shader there. And then, so this is probably where I started to get a little bit wild, where, I had a really simple idea, but it's just too hard for me to not start getting like super architectural with it. So then thinking about kind of, okay, maybe there's like this foyer area, maybe there's a little bit of a balcony, and then had those posts back there and started thinking that, that maybe that could be like a little garage or something, which if you've seen the end result, you'll know that I kind of ended up having that be, like a car park area. Here I am thinking a little bit more about the architecture. If you have stairs there, then, you need a little bit of a landing so people can come up. And then just extending more portions of the floor out, thinking way too much about the usefulness of this building, even though it doesn't really need to be. Like, I'm not an architect. I certainly enjoy sketching architecture, but really getting carried away with all the things that this house could be. Every once in a while, looking down there in my rendered view, just at the lighting, seeing kind of how this is actually looking. It's easy to get carried away with the floor plan and how things are laid out. But also considering like, what is this actually going to look like rendered? What view am I going to be seeing this from? So here I'm playing again with my camera a little bit. And then right here, doing a little bit of modeling in the camera view, just thinking like, okay, if there's a person in this house, what would they be seeing at different vantage points? And it was probably around that point where I was thinking, okay, I'm putting way more time into the design of this house than I intended. So I was thinking that maybe I would do like a portion of the animation would be more at like eye level, kind of walking through the home, but didn't end up doing that. But still, it's still nice to kind of think about these things. Just, it helps make the house look a little bit more realistic and just adds some interest. So playing a lot with the stairs and the, places people would be walking. I did earlier add that kind of wall in front of the whole thing. Thought that could be like a little garden area. And then here I'm concerned about safety around the stairs. So adding a little bit of a, what was that, like a little barrier there. And it looks like I add some glass there at the top to have a little bit of a balcony. And then I think I did something similar right around here, but cutting some holes in the ceiling, imagining those would be like skylights, not pits of death where people could fall into. And then I decided, okay, so that's going to be sort of the front of the house, that area there. And at some point here, I added a door. But yeah, just spinning the view around quite a bit, adding a roof to our second little area up there. And just sort of cleaning up some things with the geometry, filling in parts of the windows that were missing, combining geometry where it wasn't originally combined, just so that I had nice clean edge flow, especially when you're working with the solidify modifier. It's nice to have, consistent edge flow, and it'll keep things nice and even. So just evening up some lines there, adding a little bit of that balcony to the front where people could look at people coming into the building. And then here's my little entryway work a little bit more, sort of trying to resolve kind of where this door would be and what it might look like right inside the door. So just adding in a door there, thinking it would be sort of a rotation thing where you swing the door open and have full access. So this is where it got really fun, really exciting. And so I recently, for actually a freelance project I was working on, I downloaded this add-on called ARCHY, which I'll put a link to it in the description, but I mostly downloaded it because I needed a bunch of rock models, and it came with some really nice rock models. But once I've used it and got it working, there's like an insane amount of plant models and stuff in there too. So previously I had kind of worked with some choker plant models that I had, and I got them from other places too. Lots of plant models to be had on the internet. But this ARCHY add-on was really cool. You can do like a ton of stuff with the add-on, but yeah, I'm pretty much just using it for the models. And I've actually never worked with the Blender asset library, but it's like really convenient. I used to just append them from like a big crapshoot folder on my computer called models. Then I was gonna maybe cut this portion out, but yeah, I forgot how to use the little hotkeys. I was just adding the models in manually just from the asset library, but I decided it would probably be better to actually use the feature where you can like weight paint on the landscape. And then right there, I was just scaling everything up because the plant models are to real world scale, but I wasn't modeling in a real world scale. So rather than import them and then scale them down, I was thinking, okay, I should probably just make my house thing a little bit more real size. So I don't know if this is the exact proper workflow, but I was dragging in just sort of all the models I wanted to use. And then, yeah, that's what I was watching the YouTube tutorial on. They have this sort of hotkey, I think it's like J in the add-on, where you can just select like a bunch of models that you pulled into your scene, and then you can just weight paint them. And they have different controls for like rotation and scale and stuff. I never use add-ons, but this is kind of changing my mind about it because it's just incredibly easy to sort of build out a little bit of a world. Now I had been working with the Nishida sky texture, but started thinking that maybe I should have an HDRI around the background. Didn't end up using it, but I'm using one probably from HDRI Haven there. I think that's the GeoGap HDRI. And then you can see in my view here now, I've also got the polygon add-on enabled there, where I was just adding in a little bit of a ground texture. But yeah, that ARCHY add-on is really good for, you can see how quickly I was able to just add in landscape sort of around the house. And then using another third-party thing, which I'm realizing I always, preached. I was like, yeah, you don't have to make everything yourself, but I like always made everything myself. But the car I added in there was from a Choker model. I don't think that one's for free. They do have some free ones on their website. Choker's still great, but yeah, the ARCHY add-on is the latest hot tool in my inventory. So then adding in some small rocks and adding another paint layer to that same plane. So just, you can have like multiple weight paint layers with different assets. So, the ground was just looking really flat. So I was adding in all those smaller rocks to just try to, give it a little bit more interest. It still ended up looking pretty flat after this, so I'll work more with that ground material in a minute. But here, adding some little planty, grassy bushes, still just trying to break up the ground, thinking not at all about the fact that all I need to do is make this look like a Z, but instead got way carried away with building out this environment. So here's another Bag of Pie asset, just these big ground models. They're just like sort of large ground things. And then trying to add another layer to break up the ground more, and added those little rock gravel models, which just end up kind of looking like turds. So bailed on it. I probably just needed to use way more, but I was getting worried that might make the scene a little too heavy. So just ditched that. And then adding back in that ground model and just duplicating it to sort of give myself a little bit of a backdrop, a little bit of an environment. Then looking a little bit more in the camera view, thinking, okay, if I'm going to be adding all these assets, I should probably make sure that they're actually going to be visible. So thinking a little bit more finally about my camera view, what I'm actually going to be looking at here, so that I'm not adding in too much extra data to the scene where it's not really going to be visible. And then right here, thinking more about the camera angle, like how are we going to actually view this home? What's going to make it look good? And making some considerations there. So it looks like right here, maybe messing with the materials of the house a little bit. So I like everything like just white walls is kind of nice to me. And for the desert setting, I think that makes sense. It kind of helps it stand out from the environment and just lets the architecture itself shine without having too many materials. So I've gone back and forth like 10 times adding lights into the house and then deleting them. But this is where I was thinking, okay, like how am I actually going to make that Z shape? That was really the only purpose of this entire model, was to make a little tiny Z in the middle of the scene. So still my staircase inspiration. That's still kind of the way I'm imagining that the Z will appear. And I wanted it to happen with lighting. So the staircase obviously was pretty easy to light, but trying to get the top and bottom portion of that Z, since now I'm not using the whole home to create that, I was playing with some like roughness in the glass to just sort of diffuse the light hitting the floor a little bit, so that we could have, just sort of a more clear Z shape. And I found this angle I really liked, where I was kind of looking through a doorway on that second story into the staircase. That was kind of a cool thing. I liked how the glass was all diffused, and then it's you can see through to the staircase. And I think right there I added just a little bit of rotation to the door frame. Didn't end up touching it anymore after that. And then I think what I'm doing here is I was duplicating the windows object, which those are all just one object, and then adding a wireframe modifier to it, just so that every edge on the window had like a little bit of a pane there. And I'm looking for a model here. Don't know what it was. Oh, the Go chair. So I used to work for a company called Bernhardt Design, and they make this chair, which is designed by Ross Lovegrove, and I really like the chair. It's not very comfortable. I do have one, but I use it more as an art object, and that's what I'm using it for here too. I think I was considering adding like furniture and everything to this house, but I was like, that's just going to take way too much time. So thought it would be better to just kind of make it stylized and abstract and just put a bunch of Go chairs everywhere. So I did a little bit more work on the floor there, adding a little bit of displacement to the ground just so it wasn't so perfectly flat. And then here I am messing with the lighting a little bit more. Now those models I think were kind of floating in space, so I just moved them into a more natural position. I think I could just move them to another layer and they would be hidden, or I could like disable them in a collection, but just kind of move them into the actual model. So once again, in the lighting, adding a black body so that we have realistic color temperatures. And which, by the way, you guys, if you want to see everything here, you might want to watch it on like half speed or something. I didn't mention it, but this is 8x, I believe, is what I sped this video up to. It took about 2 hours for the whole process here. And the video does cut off a little bit early, but I'll go into the actual file after this so that we can, I can show you what else I worked on. So what am I getting set up here? Yeah, just still trying to mess with that lighting, trying to get the Z to read clearly. That little barrier was a little bit in the way at the top of the staircase, so I was kind of trying to move that to get it looking right. And then right there, I think I deleted. So there were 2 grass models I was using that were just a little too green for my desert scene, and I could have just edited the material and made them less green, but I think I just removed them from the weight paint collection. And then just Alt-D, creating linked duplicates of those ground objects to just give ourselves a little bit of a environment. And I always like to not go too realistic with things and make people think that it's a real world. So in the final render, I actually left a lot of just like black space where you can see that the environment cuts off. I just think it's a cool, I don't know if dichotomy is the right word, but you've got these sort of realistic assets and everything. It kind of looks like a real scene with nice lighting and everything, but then you can see that it's just like floating in space. That's something I tend to do a lot with my work, is have it look real, but obviously not be real by the fact that it's floating in space. And playing a little bit more with the color of the glass there. That's one thing that did not make it into this final recording. I cut it off a little bit early. Thought I was done here, but you saw pretty much the whole process. What I'm going to do now is open up the actual file and talk you through just some of the last little things I did, last little details I added. But yeah, thanks for watching so far, and we'll keep going. Like and subscribe. Download the ARCHY add-on. What's up, everyone? So just back here a couple days later, I wanted to show you the actual file that I made there, just to see it kind of more in the interface, see some of the last changes I did. Most notably would be just I added a couple of these ARCHY ground objects just to kind of hang out in the background rather than doing sort of that surrounded look I had before. And I scaled these up a little bit beyond realistic, but they're sort of in the background anyway, so I thought it would be fine. Also added in some trees from the ARCHY add-on, which I promise this is not a ARCHY sponsored thing. I just, it's like if you use Blender for 14 years and then you never use an add-on and then you finally use an add-on. I did use a Node Wrangler add-on for a long time, but yeah, these trees are really good. Like if you just drag one in. I'm also using the asset library for the first time ever, so just a general good experience for me here. Now, as far as other things I changed in this video, I believe the sun was animated probably a little bit different than where we left off in the other video. I'm just going to delete this tree. So yeah, just inserted some keyframes. Some people had questions about the lighting when I posted this on Instagram. So just animating the sun elevation value to kind of get it to set. And it looks like I might have adjusted the strength just a tad too. I don't know where the keyframe for that would have been. We can look right here. So the strength, it doesn't look like I actually, so there's a keyframe for the strength there, but it doesn't change. But I got it to get dark just by moving the elevation down. And then in addition to that, they're kind of hard to see, but I did add in a few lamps just in the bottom here, like some uplighting. And I also added in like a little house number detail. So you can see those lamps there. So those are animated where the strength of them they start off because even if they're on, even during the day, you can see them on, and I didn't really want them to appear in the day portion of the animation. So just have kind of a light glow happening with those. And to get that realistic glow, I'm using a black body node here, just to give an accurate color temperature. And the other thing I wanted to touch on real quickly is just this glass shader. So I did a sort of a gradient, like tinted look, almost like you'd see in like a car, but I think it looks kind of cool on a house. And that's just a gradient texture. And then I just project from view some UVs onto there so that it's going the right way, because this is all one object. So I would just kind of select a set of windows and then project from view. and then just move it in the UV editor. You can see all the UVs for the windows there are just kind of going bottom to top. So, you know, if I like grabbed one of these and moved it, you can see that it kind of gets off there. So they're all just lined up with that UV map, and then have that mapped into a color ramp, which is controlling a mix value. So it's white at the bottom and this kind of sandy color at the top. And then when it all comes together, you kind of get this nice fade effect. Really, I think that's it. I mean, I just probably, polished the camera motion a little bit, which as per usual is just a big empty controlling the camera right there. And that's about it. Just wanted to show you the inside of the file. I am going to make this available on Patreon, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to include all the assets, those because, you know, I paid for them. But if you want to get them yourself, then I will have a referral affiliate link in the description, and you can check those out. They have a full pack, and they also have like a light pack, which still includes a lot of these. But yeah, there's just like there's a ton of assets in here, and it's pretty cool. So I wanted to give them a shout out. I messaged the creator of the add-on, and he's a really nice guy. So cool stuff there. But yeah, I'll make this available on Patreon. Won't have the car model or the plant models or the ground texture because I don't think that's a free one on Polygon. But they do have a lot of free textures on Polygon too. But yeah, I will leave the Go chair in there though, because I made that model many, many years ago, and it can be yours. And don't tell the people on Turbo Squid that paid, I think, $5 for it, that it's for free in this model. Well, I guess you have to be a Patreon, but anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and leave comments if you want to see some of the other videos from my 36 days of type. I didn't do time lapses, but I could totally go back into the files and kind of show you how things worked. So thanks for being here. Like and subscribe, and click those links in the description, and I'll see you next time.